Meeting of the Granbury Independent School District Audit. For the record, a quorum is present. There are 5 board members present. For the record, Ms. Melanie Graff and Ms. Karen Lowry are absent this evening. At this time, I ask Courtney Henry if she will step forward and swear in Mr. Moore and Ms. Alana.
Just right in front of me, please. Ready? Trustees, if you will both raise your right hands and repeat after me. I state your name. Do solemnly swear that I will faithfully execute the duties of the office of School Board Trustee for the Granbury Independent School District of the State of Texas, and will, to the best of my ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution and laws of the United States and of this state. So help me God. Congratulations.
Yes. And as my final duty at this time, I announce that we will be going into executive session under 551071, private consulting with the attorney, 551072, discussion of purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property, 551074, discussion of officers, employees, and personnel matters, and 551076, considering the deployment of specific occasions or implementation of security personnel. At this time, since I am through with this, I turn this meeting over to Ms. Townsend. And the time is 5:02.
And Dr. Harrington, we would love to have you join us in executive session today for some of the information that we're going to discuss. You will be very valuable. And I cannot say enough how much you have meant to me as a mentor and to the rest of the board. I have been blessed with your presence. We'll go into executive session now.
The board is back from closed session. We will now take a 5-minute recess and then be back for open session. Thank you. 6:03, and the board will reconvene into open session.
That worked. As soon as Dr. Glenn's up here. All right. We are reconvening from open session. At this point, we will have a moment of silence in our invocation by Mr. Moore.
Would y'all please pray with me? Dear Lord, we are so thankful for everybody that is present tonight, and we're so thankful for our staff, our administrators, our students, and our teachers. And Lord, we give a special prayer tonight for the family of Suzanne Back, who entered into your presence on December the 1st. We're very grateful and thankful for her longtime service that she gave to Granbury Independent School District. Lord, please give us wisdom and strength as we make the best decisions for our great district. In the name of Jesus we pray. Amen.
And at this time, we will have the pledges by our Bacchus students.
Good evening. I have with me Izzy Manis, and she's our 5th grade, and we have Zoe Watts in 2nd grade. All right, girls. Luella. Sorry, why did I do that? I know your name. All right. Salute. Pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to the Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible. Excellent job. Thank you. As the girls are going around, go ahead and Luella, go ahead and go and shake their hands. As they're walking around, we have Izzy, who is an ambassador on our campus. She does a great job helping with different areas of services and I know today she worked Christmas store and helped with that. And then we have Luella, a 2nd grader, who came to Bacchus, and she has just been a rock star coming in. I can see there'll be a leader one day in her. She'll be with me as principal of the day on Wednesday. And I think she's kind of a mini-me, so it's going to be a fun day for us on Wednesday. So Bacchus has had a lot of great things happening. We had our Christmas Village this past weekend, which was a big hit. Lots of community members and lots of students came and enjoyed the evening with us, and we had a great time. So loved having that. Very special moment for me is that Mr. Back came and was Santa for us, and it was a hard moment. He came to me and he said, Zonnie always got me dressed and got me ready. And came up and he goes, but I have to do this. I have to be here for her. And so it was really a big special evening to have him there and just everyone else. So thank you guys for having us tonight.
Thank you. And can we have Izzy and Luella's parents stand up so we can recognize them as well? At this time, we are going to have our board reorganization. And I'm just going to read some information to you all so that you understand exactly what we're doing. Board officers shall serve a term of 1 year or until a successor is elected. Each officer shall perform any legal duties of that office and other duties as required by the board. The first office we are going to fill is president. The duties of the president are required by law, shall be preside on all board meetings unless unable to attend, and have the right to discuss, make motions and resolutions, and vote on all matters coming before the board. A candidate for board president should have served at least 2 years as a trustee and received or commit to receiving as soon as possible formal training in the duties of board president. I will now take nominations for president.
I would like to nominate you, Barbara Townsend, for board president.
And I'll second.
Thank you. Are there any other nominations? Is there any discussion? Okay, then we will vote on president. Those in favor of Barbara Townsend for president of the school board, please raise your hand. 5-0. We have two absent tonight, Ms. Gore and Ms. Graft, or not Ms. Gore, Ms. Graft and Ms. Lowry. You are here. Yes, you are, ma'am. All right. So we now will move on to vice president. The vice president of the board shall act in the capacity and perform the duties of the president of the board in the event of the absence or incapacity of the president, and automatically become president of the board if a vacancy in that office occurs. A candidate for board vice president should have served at least 1 year as a trustee. I will now take nominations for vice president.
Now, Madam President, I'd like to nominate Ms. Courtney Gore for vice president.
And I'll second that.
Thank you. Are there any other nominations for vice president? Is there any discussion about the nomination for vice president? All right, we will now vote on vice president. Those in favor of Courtney Gore for vice president of the school board, please raise your hand. Wonderful. It is 5-0 with 2 absent, Ms. Lowry and Ms. Graft. Now moving on to secretary. The secretary of the board shall ensure that an accurate record is kept of the proceedings of each board meeting, including any questions that are asked and documentation of when they were answered. Ensure that notices of the board meetings are posted and sent as required by law. In the absence of the president and vice president, call the meeting to order and act as presiding officer, and sign or countersign documents as directed by action of the board. A candidate for board secretary shall have served at least 1 year as a trustee. I will now take nominations for secretary.
Madam President, I'd like to nominate Mr. Billy Wimberly for board secretary.
I'll second that.
Very good. Are there any other nominations for secretary? You guys are making this easy tonight. Okay, is there any discussion? All right, we will now vote on secretary. All those in favor of Billy Wimberly for secretary of the board, please raise your hand. It passes unanimously, 5-0, with Ms. Graft and Ms. Lowry absent. So we now have our new board for the next school year. Thank you. Now, at this time, if you want, you two can switch places or just stay there this month and I'll have you switch next month. Are you good? Okay, you're staying where you are. Okay, so gotten that done. Moving on to Achievement Spotlight. Dr. Glenn?
Thank you, Madam President, and congratulations to our new board officers. At this time, I'm going to ask Hussein Sharabi to come up so we can honor our GHS Junior Officer Club members.
Good evening, Board, Dr. Glenn. It's my pleasure to introduce our junior optimist officers, and I will let them speak. So I have Lila Manning, Lily McCoy, Pooja Vitalpura, Maggie Diamondson, Jocelyn Berry, Christy Torres, and Quinn King. And I also want to thank all the the parents that support the students. They always attend events, and would I let you guys introduce your officer position? And
I'm Lila Manning, and I'm in charge of the social media for our club.
I'm Lily McCoy. I'm the president of Junior Optimist.
I'm Pooja Vitalpura, and I'm the communications director.
I'm Maggie Diamondson, and I'm the secretary. I'm Jocelyn Berry. I'm the treasurer.
I'm Christy Torres, and I'm the vice president.
I'm Quinn King, and I'm the communications outreach officer.
Sorry. Me and Lily also just wanted to tell you guys a little bit about our club. So again, this is Lily McCoy, and I'm Lila Manning.
Okay. JOY stands for Junior Optimist International. Our mission is to spread kindness, compassion, and of course, optimism.
We serve our community with pride by doing service projects such as volunteering our time at a monthly food pantry, ringing the bells with Salvation Army, reading to first graders at our elementary schools, and even being elves at the Santa House on the square, and so much more.
Us officers are so incredibly proud to have seen on the level of commitment and involvement that has come from our fellow members. Each year, this club grows and grows in not only membership numbers, but the overall outreach we have in our community.
We thank everyone who has supported this club and allowed us to be here tonight to share a little bit about us. Thank you.
I do want to quickly thank all the optimists. I see the room full of optimists. And this club started in 2020. So February 2020, that's where we had our first meeting. And of course, something happened. And then, so the club kept growing every year. And it wouldn't be possible without the support we have from the Granbury Optimist Club, which is the Friends of the Youth. They are big supporters of our club. And thank you to all the Granbury Optimist Club that are in audience on the board, so thank you very much.
Hussein, stay up there. First off, parents of all these wonderful students, would you please stand up and be recognized? Our Junior Optimist Club is really amazing. Hussein, what was the award that they received from the Optimist International?
So this year we received #1 place in service projects on the international level from Junior Optimist International. And that was amazing to see that, because in the last 12 months we did at least one project on a monthly basis, but we went above that and we did 2 projects every month. So that's one of the most active clubs in the nation.
So in 3 years, you got #1 in service internationally.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Hussein.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam President. For those of you who don't know, our high school has a barbecue team, and not only just a barbecue team, a state-recognized barbecue team. And at this time, I'm going to ask our culinary arts teacher, Brianne Langdon, to come up and present our next achievement spotlight.
Thank you so much for having us. I am really excited and honored to be here tonight to recognize one of our 4 Granbury ISD barbecue teams. And over the last 4 years, our program has grown from 1 team to now 4 outstanding teams. And as we continue to make great relationships within the community, our success and the skills and abilities of our students continues to grow. And I'm really excited to have these kids here tonight. I'm also really honored to have with us Homer Robertson from the Texas Cowboy Symposium. Many of you in the room will know Homer. He's been around a minute or two, and he has been an amazing partner with our kiddos this year, and I'm going to let him tell you a little bit about it. But first, I'm going to have our kiddos come up. Before I introduce, well, y'all can come on up. We've got Noe Puente, Emery Kirby, Maria Merez, and Rayleigh Langdon. And y'all can just go stand up here in the middle. And these 4, at our first home contest, they, either way, at our first home contest in November, they placed 5th overall. And a couple weekends ago, the next week we went to World Food Barbecue Championships and we placed 9th overall. The next weekend we went to Graham and we took 3rd overall, winning 1st in brisket, 3rd in chicken, 10th in beans. And then this last weekend we took a few with us and we had another 10th place overall. We didn't have all of these guys with us, but and our middle school team brought home some banners and placings at this last one. So we're really, really growing, and we couldn't do it without partners like Homer. So Homer, if you want to come up and tell us a little bit about what you guys do, and we're happy to have you.
Good evening, Board. My name's Homer Robertson. I am representing the Texas Cowboy Symposium. So we had our first event this year and had some tremendous community support, a lot of donors, as well as we had 14 chuck wagons. We had a Western Swing Music Festival, and just exceeded all of our expectations. We're primarily trying to support youth of Hood County. We'll not only, we're going to donate tonight, we're going to give Ms. Langdon a check for $5,000 to go to the culinary group. And those were proceeds from our first symposium. We're going to do another one next year, the end of September. We'll also be at the Hood County Stock Show this year as a significant buyer in the buyer pool to support not only Granbury ISD students as well as students throughout the county. So we think this is a very important program. Certainly being involved in the culinary world, we think these young people are going to make a difference in our community because they've got a skill set that they can take. We need to support them every way we can. So thank you very much. Ms. Langdon, how about your check for $5,000?
These kiddos worked for this money too. We set up tables and we did all kinds, and they did an amazing job. And not only did they work hard, but they represented Granbury ISD themselves and our program really well. And one thing we say a whole lot, anytime we go anywhere with barbecue and we're working, is remember who you are and whose you are. And we want to make sure that not only are we doing really good at learning about how to make great barbecue, but number one, we want to have great kids. And so with organizations and support from Homer and other amazing community members and parents and staff members, I think we're getting a pretty good handle on it. So thank you for having us tonight. Take your hand.
And do we have any parents of barbecue people out there? Oh, we have one. Yay, very good, very good.
Yeah, kid had better stand up. All right, thank you, Mrs. Langdon. Granbury ISD is very fortunate to have Schottenkirk Automotive as a community partner. Last year, they started by sponsoring our Employees of the Year. That's the secondary employee of the year, the elementary employee of the year, and our paraprofessional of the year. And as if that were not amazing enough, they decided to double down on that by coming back each month this year and recognizing a Senior of the Month and presenting that Senior of the Month with a $500 scholarship. Now, Brian, I see you're here, so I'll let you up to the podium. It says in my notes that Wendy was going to be here.
Yes.
But you got it tonight.
Yes, I've got it tonight.
We're glad you're with us.
Thank you for having me. Schottenkirk Granbury Automotive wants to congratulate Jocelyn Dominguez as being selected as December Schottenkirk Senior of the Month. Yeah.
Are Jocelyn's parents here today?
All right, Granbury ISD would like to thank Schottenkirk again for the strong partnership, and also congratulations, Jocelyn, well deserved. At this time, I'm going to call Sandy Ruiz, the Bronner principal, up for recognition of the dual language exemplary status and honorable mention teachers.
Okay, good evening, Board and Dr. Glenn. I am pleased to share positive news regarding our educators at Bronner. Following a recent campus visit by Dr. Gomez, who is our dual language consultant, our teachers were found to be implementing all aspects of the dual language model with fidelity, which consists of 25 different areas. This is outstanding because Dr. Gomez does not give this recognition out very often. I am delighted to extend my congratulations to Veronica Barragon for her exemplary performance. She's in the middle. And Mary Hernandez and Karina Rodriguez for their honorable achievements. Dr. Gomez's recent visit to Bronner showcased the dedicated implementation of the Gomez and Gomez dual language model by our teachers. This achievement is a testament to their dedication and hard work in ensuring the success of our dual language program. Their commitment to excellence will be further highlighted as they present at the National Best Practices Conference in February. Ms. Barragon, Ms. Hernandez, and Ms. Rodriguez, your efforts contribute significantly to the success of our students and the overall excellence of Bronner, so thank you. To the board and Dr. Glenn, thank you for your continued support of the dual language program at Bronner Elementary. And I also want to say, I know we always want to see the parents. Mary's parents are here tonight. And Miss Barragon, her husband Francisco, who works in at downtown, is also present with us tonight.
Sandy, thank you so much for telling us that. I would have never thought to ask.
All right, congratulations. That is a huge distinction and honor. We're proud of all those teachers. Also want to thank Sandy and Julie and Nuvia for your leadership as well. Great job. At this time, I'm going to ask Stacy Mitchell to come to the podium. We have a milestone award tonight for the Granbury Education Foundation. They have raised well over $1 million, but more important than that, they have given out over $1 million in teacher grants in the 10 years they've been in existence. And so, Stacy, I know you brought your board with you, and so I'll let you say a few words and introduce your board, and then we'd like to make a presentation.
Okay, well, good evening, board and Dr. Glenn, and just thank you guys so much. I want to start by thanking you for all your leadership and dedication and hard work for the students and teachers of Granbury ISD. We would not be here without all of your support. And of course, 2 of you are on our foundation board right now. So, well, 3 too with Dr. Glenn. So, but 2 of the board members as well. So we just appreciate all your support. And this year was our 10th 50 Fellows, and our community, the love and support they show to the Granbury Education Foundation has been phenomenal. The event sells out way before time, and it's a great event. Our support this year, we netted $176,194.57. So I thought that was amazing. And just our total this year on our prize party, we were able to pass that $1 million milestone after the 10th 50 Fellows. And so we have now given away $1,012,839. So it's just very exciting, and we could not do it without a hardworking board who is here with me tonight. And so I'm going to look as I introduce you, if you don't mind stepping up and coming forward. So Ann Van Duzy. Lisa Peregrino, Manel Donahue, Tina Conway, Julie Clark, Randy Leach, Heather Buffkin, Holly Martin, and Sarah Galvan. We had a couple more that were going to be here tonight, but had fallen ill under the weather right now. So also I did want to recognize our school board members that are on. We have Barbara Townsend and Nancy Alana on our board, as well as Dr. Glenn.
Stacy, if you would stay right there, I'm going to ask the president of our board, who is actually, for those of you who don't know, the first president of the Granbury Education Foundation. So she was there when we raised our first dollar, and she has a gift for you the president who raised our $1 millionth. And so... And so, Stacy, everything rises and falls on leadership, and we appreciate you, everything you do for our kids, for our community. You go above and beyond and put in countless hours, and we are grateful for everything you do and continue to, your continued service to the Granbury Education Foundation.
All right, y'all look here. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Hold it. One more. You go ahead.
Unless you don't have, no.
I want to thank everybody for their patience. Thank everybody for their patience tonight as we've gone through quite a few things in the Achievement Spotlight. We do have one more. I'd like to call up our outgoing school board president, Dr. Barbara Harrington. And she went straight to the podium, which
What can I say?
doesn't really surprise me. Oh, I thought you were going to speak.
Well, with your permission, sir, I would.
Oh, I knew you would want to. Go ahead, Doc.
I would be remiss in not thanking all the wonderful board members with whom I've served over these years, with the administration who's worked so hard. Anything that I'm honored for tonight is really belongs, it's a shared victory for all of them, because every one of them who have stood for us, and as my daughter says, my favorite thing to say is, if it's not for kids, it's not for us. So for the local citizens who have put me back in the office every year that I ran, I thank them. I thank y'all for honoring me. And most of all, I thank all the kids who have come through this school district, because that's what it's about. And I really appreciate every teacher that has sat in a classroom, every principal that's been on the campus, because we as board members are only as good as those people that are working in the trenches every day. So I thank all of them also. Thank you, Dr. Glenn.
Thank you, Dr. Harrington. If you'll stay right there, I'm going to ask if all of our trustees would go down. We have something that our students made that we would like to present you with tonight. And once you carry it, I'm going to read, and then I'll walk down in just a second. Just want to read a few career highlights, and we'd be all here all night if I read everything. But Dr. Harrington actually began her career in 1968. For those of you who don't know, she was actually the second female secondary principal in the state of Texas. She became a Granbury Pirate in the late 90s when she was named Assistant Superintendent of Granbury ISD. And then she joined our school board in 2005 and served on the board for nearly 20 years, 18 years as a trustee, finishing up as board president this past year. She's a ferocious champion of public education. She's a friend to everyone that comes across her path. She's an advocate for kids, and she's tough as nails. I mean, I think it was my second year on the board, I got a call that she had cut her fingers off. And as the story goes, when the paramedics were taking her out of her house, she wouldn't leave until they cleaned the blood off of her new tile. So she made them sit there and clean it before she would get in the care flight chopper. We will miss you, Dr. Harrington, on behalf of all the principals who put their campus improvement plans and district improvement plans in front of you and got them marked up. And that includes Nancy Alana, who's standing right there as well. You caused a lot of anxiety to administration over the years, but you did it because you wanted to make sure that it was done right for kids. And on the bottom of that plaque says something that you said to me many, many times. If it's not for kids, it's not for us. God bless you, Dr. H. We're proud to have had you as our board president. Dr. Harrington's daughter and sister, I believe, are in the audience. If they would stand up, we'll recognize them. Madam President, that's all the achievement spotlights we have tonight.
Thank you, Dr. Glenn. We will now move on to the hearing of the annual financial audit report. From today, so we have someone from the Snow Garrett Williams CPA firm to do that for us. Thank you, Lindsay.
Well, thank y'all for having me. Tough act to follow, the achievement spotlight. I am Lindsay Kinnemer. I'm an audit partner with Snow Garrett Williams, and last week we met with the audit committee as well as Dr. Glenn and with Emmett to go through the audit report in more detail. Tonight I'm going to go through just the highlights of the audit report, and I'm going to start on page 1 of the bound report. Page 1 is the certificate of the board. This is where you approve or disapprove the audit report. It requires the signatures of both the board president and the board secretary. There's an unbound certificate that I left with Emmett. If y'all can approve and sign that, he can scan and send it to me. I'll drop that into the PDF version of the audit report, send that back over to him to do the submission to TEA, and that's due by January the 28th. If you can also sign and approve a couple of the bound copies, those can be returned back to Emmett to keep on hand in the business office. And we will move over to page 2 and take a look at our independent auditor's report. Pages 2 through 4 are our independent auditor's report, and I'm going to review over some of the key points starting in the first paragraph under opinions. In the first sentence, we state that we have audited the financial statements of Granbury ISD as of and for the year ended August 31st, 2023. If you move down to the next paragraph, we state that in our opinion, the financial statements present fairly in all material respects the financial position of Granbury ISD as of August 31st, 2023. And this is a clean or an unmodified audit opinion, and that's the highest level of assurance we can give you on the financial statements. So that's what you want to see in your audit report. If you move down to the next paragraph under basis for opinions, we state that we conducted our audit in accordance with auditing standards generally accepted in the United States of America and also with government auditing standards. Moving down to the last paragraph on this page under responsibilities of management. Management is responsible for the preparation and the fair presentation of the financial statements in accordance with accounting principles generally accepted in the United States of America, as well as the internal controls related to that preparation. If you move to the next page on page 3, under the auditor's responsibility, our objectives are to obtain reasonable assurance about whether the financial statements as a whole are free from material misstatement, whether due to fraud or error, and to issue our auditor's report that includes our opinion, which was the unmodified opinion. If you move to the next page on page 4, in the last paragraph under other reporting, in accordance with government auditing standards, we've also issued our report on our consideration of Granbury ISD's internal controls over financial reporting and on test of compliance with certain provisions of laws, regulations, contracts, grant agreements, and other matters. And this is an additional report for the government auditing standards towards the back of this audit report. I didn't want to review over that, but I did want to just point out that we did not report any internal control or compliance findings. And then we're going to move over to page 16 and look at the financial statements. Page 16 is the balance sheet for the governmental funds at August 31st, 2023. And just a quick overview of this financial statement. If you look on the left side of the page, towards the top of the page, we have your assets. Underneath assets are liabilities, deferred inflows of resources, and fund balances are at the bottom. We have 4 columns going across the page. The first column on the far left is your general fund. The second column is your debt service fund, and these were your 2 major funds for the year. The third column are your other governmental funds, which were your special revenue funds and capital projects fund. And the last column on the right is the totaling column. The total assets of the district were $41,847,000. Total liabilities were $9,429,000. Deferred inflows were $1,926,000. And total fund balances were $30,490,000. And if you move back over to the general fund column, of your total fund balance of the $30,490,000, $25 million of that is in the general fund. You had a committed fund balance of $540,000 for capital expenditures for equipment, $540,000 other committed fund balance, and $24 million of unassigned fund balance in the general fund. And we'll move over a couple of pages and go to page 18. Page 18 is the income statement of the district for fiscal year 2023. And a quick overview of this financial statement. If you look on the left side of the page, at the top of the page, we have your revenues. Underneath revenues are expenditures, other financing sources and uses, a special item, and then fund balances at the bottom. We have the same 4 columns going across the page, and I'll start by going over the totaling column, and then I'll move back over and go over the general fund and debt service fund. The total revenues of the district were $115,339,000. Total expenditures were $122,144,000. Had total financing sources of $1,161,000, a special item of $1,145,000, and I'll go over that here in a second in the general fund. This brought us to a decrease in fund balance of $4,497,000, and again, the ending fund balance of $30,490,000. If you move back over to your general fund column, which is your operating fund, if you compare your fiscal year 22 revenues and expenditures, so the last year's audit to the current year audit, your total revenues were up about $10 million. And the majority of that was an increase in property taxes and an increase in state funding. Your total expenditures were up about $18 million, and the biggest fluctuations there were in Function 11 for instruction of about $3 million. That was mostly due to payroll for salary increases. Function 81 for capital outlay was up about $8 million, and most of that was from the land purchase, the 73 acres. And Function 91 is your recapture, your payment back to the state, and that was up about $4.5 million, which was due to the increase in property tax values. You had other financing sources of $1,161,000, which is the issuance of leases and subscription-based IT arrangements and a finance purchase for servers. A special item of the $1,145,000, that was the payment from HCAD for your proportionate share of the fund balance that had built up and that they paid you back. And so we had a decrease in fund balance in the general fund of $5,125,000 and the ending fund balance of $25,091,000. If you move over to the right to the debt service fund column, you had total revenues of about $13 million, total expenditures of $12 million, a decrease of about $658,000, and ending fund balance of about $3 million. And I did want to point out that y'all did an additional early redemption of debt of about $4,645,000, so you paid down some more principal. And I know the district's doing that again in fiscal year 24 for about $6.4 million. We are going to move over and take a look at the general fund budget, and that's going to be on page 52. Pages 52 and 53 are the general fund budgetary comparison schedule. There are 4 columns going across the page. The first column is your original adopted budget. The second column is your final amended budget. The third column were your actual revenues and expenditures. And the last column is the variance between your actual revenues and expenditures and your final amended budget. Looking through the variance column, your actual revenues came in over budget by about $2.4 million. If you flip the page to page 53, in the expenditures, your actual expenditures came in under budget by about $1,053,000. So y'all actually planned for about a $10.9 million decrease in fund balance, and it came in for the decrease of the $5 million. So y'all had about a $5.7 million positive variance, which is great. And I also wanted to point out that in that original column, y'all adopted a balanced budget, and I believe y'all adopted another balanced budget for fiscal year 24. And that's been really difficult for districts to do in the last few years, so it's great that y'all have been able to do that. That decrease in fund balance, as y'all know, is the committed fund balance that had built up that y'all were saving for that land. So that's where that decrease came from. And we are going to move over to page 59. Pages 59 and 60 are the delinquent tax receivable schedule. And I just wanted to point out here on page 59, if you look at the 2023 line, your M&O, your maintenance and operations tax rate, it's been going down steadily over the last few years. So it went down from the 0.9438 in 2022 down to 0.8546. So that increase in property tax is coming from a large increase in property tax values. So I just wanted to point that out, that y'all have decreased your M&O rate and you've kept your debt service rate at the same rate for several years. And we are going to move over to page 63. Page 63 is the food service fund budgetary comparison schedule. And I just wanted to point out here, because we did mention last year that TDA allows you to have 3 months of operating expenditures in your fund balance. And if you go over that amount, you have to file a corrective action plan with them. So during COVID, while they were allowing everybody to eat for free, most districts have exceeded that 3-month amount. They've been adding to fund balance, including Granbury. So last year, y'all had a corrective action plan in place. You can see here that you decreased your fund balance in the food service fund by about $150,000. The district is still over that 3-month allowable amount, but they do still have a corrective action plan in place and working with TDA to spend that down. And we will move over to page 64. Page 64 is the optimum fund balance worksheet. I like to point out that this is unaudited, and it says that at the very top. This used to be required by TEA several years ago, and then they gave us the option to include it in the audit report as an unaudited exhibit or to take it out of the report. Most of our districts have chosen to keep it in because it is a good tool to help you target a fund balance in your general fund. So I'll walk through the calculations starting on line 1. Your total general fund balance was the $25,091,091. If you move down to line 4, your total general fund committed fund balance was the $1,080,000. In line 6 and 7, we do a calculation of what 3 months of operating expenditures would be for the general fund. So if you take your total general fund expenditures and divide it by 12, you have the amount on line 6, which is about $7.9 million. If you double that amount, we have the amount on line 7, which is $15.8 million. So those two lines added together are roughly what it would take you to operate for 3 months, which is typically what TEA has said to keep in your unassigned fund balance. Line 8 was the receivable from TEA for state funding at August 31st, which was just $10,000. So line 12 is the sums of line 2 through 11 to give you a calculated optimum amount, which was $24,795,000. And then line 13 shows you if you have an excess or a deficit compared to that amount. So you can see y'all are right on target with what we're calculating. So just a very, very small excess, which is a great place to be. And the last thing we'll take a look at is on page 76, which should be the very last page of the bound report. Page 76 are the school first indicators that we are required to report on for the audit. And I won't read through all of these, but I did want to read through a couple that are directly related to our auditor's report. The first one is the very first question, SF1. Was there an unmodified opinion in the financial report on the financial statements as a whole? Yes, there was. The next one, SF2, were there any disclosures in the report or other sources of information concerning non-payment of any terms of debt agreements at fiscal year end? No, there was not. If you move down towards the center of the page to SF5, did the report disclose any instances of material weakness in internal controls over financial reporting and compliance for local, state, or federal funds? No, it did not. In SF6, were there any disclosures in the report of material noncompliance for grants, contracts, and laws related to local, state, or federal funds? No, there was not. So all of these responses were favorable. They were going the direction you would want them to go, and y'all scored 100% on these selected school first indicators. And that's the last exhibit I have to go over, but were there any questions about the audit report?
Yeah, I just have one that I like to ask every year. I know that y'all represent a lot of districts across the state of Texas. When you look at the Granbury ISD debt ratio, our fund balance, our tax rate, our revenues over expenditures, how would you say GISD compares to the other districts you represent?
Y'all have to be at the top. We audit 20 school districts in total. And Granbury ISD is as financially sound as any other district that we audit. And y'all do a great job managing your finances. The business office does a great job. They get us everything that we need for the audit, which Emmett can tell you it's more information every single year. And I shared with y'all, or with the audit committee last week, just being able to present at this meeting in December is pretty impressive for a district your size. We come out in October to do field work. It's a lot of work trying to get through everything and present at this meeting. Most of our districts, we actually present in January now. It's just been harder and harder to get that done. So it's a true testament of how good a job y'all do. So,
well, thank you.
Very nice to work with y'all.
And the credit for that is twofold. I think first, it's nice that we had at one time 3 bankers on the board when Mr. Jackson was here. We're down to 2 bankers, but certainly we have a conservative board that really watches the money well, and they're good stewards of the taxpayers' funds. But also great leadership at the central office level. Emmett Whitefield and his team do a tremendous job. Emmett, I know you put a lot of work into the audit. But it's a year-round job for you, and we thank you for what you do as well.
Thank you, Lindsay, for coming out.
Thank you very much.
right, at this time, we will move to the superintendent's report. Dr. Glenn.
Thank you, Madam President, and I'll be brief tonight. I want to thank everyone who has stayed with us through a long achievement spotlight. A couple of more brags. You'll be hearing more about this as Mr. Cox puts information out in January, but 8 of our campuses were recently recognized by the U.S. News and World Report as top campuses. I also want to brag on a move that the district made, and credit to Jimmy Dawson and a team of teachers at the high school that shifted away from Weatherford College dual credit to Tarrant County Community College. The reason that ended up being such a great move for us is Tarrant County applied for a grant that made them one of only 6 junior colleges in the state of Texas that offer free tuition. So all students in Granbury ISD that take dual credit through TCC are getting free college coursework. And for those of you who don't know, and I have 2 that are in school right now, you know, a year at a public university in Texas, whether it's Tarleton, SFA, Texas A&M, UT, is going to run you between $20,000 and $30,000. And it is not unrealistic for a student to get 30 hours of college coursework done while they're in high school at Granbury if they commit themselves to it. So that could essentially be a bump to family households of about $30,000, and now that's free. And so it ended up being an amazing transition for us. And kind of as a third brag, there's a young man named Jonathan Hutchinson who we've recognized a few times up here. He's part of our MCJ or OTC program. He really wants to go to a military academy. And he made a huge leap toward that by securing the nomination from Ted Cruz last week. So in addition to Colonel Casey, who has the ability to nominate kids as well, having a dual nomination is pretty exciting for Jonathan. Also, I want to let you know from a security standpoint, we are putting the intruder film up now. Mr. Clark and his team are overseeing that. He is also in the process of working with local law enforcement to ensure that they have access control cards to our facilities in the event of an emergency. From an academic standpoint, we will be presenting the TAPER report. That's essentially our district report card. Mrs. Clark will give that presentation at our February board meeting. We have a busy month in January for trustees and the community. We're going to begin 2 strategic planning sessions as we prepare for a possible May bond election. We are also going to have on January 8th mid-year convocation for our teachers. But before we do any of that, tomorrow night we have to go have STARS graduation. And I see Margaret Rodriguez in the audience. That's tomorrow night at Acton Baptist Church. And I will tell you, year in and year out, she makes sure that some of our most needy, fragile kids get the support and love and attention they need to get their high school diploma. And so we are grateful for her leadership, and we invite everyone out to that celebration at Acton Baptist tomorrow at 7 p.m. Madam President, that's all I have for you this month.
Thank you, Dr. Glenn. At this time, we're going to have a public comment on agenda items, and I would like to read something because it has changed with the policy and procedures that we changed last month. So, to better serve the students, staff, and communities throughout GISD, individuals who wish to address the board during public comment portion of the board meeting are required to now register online. The form can be found on the GISD website under School Board and Board Meetings tab. If someone lacks the technology necessary to complete the online submission form, they can call the GISD Administration Building or complete the form in person at the admin building. Registration will open at the time the meeting agenda is posted, which is typically at 5 p.m. on the Friday before the meeting, which is 72 hours prior to the start of the meeting. Registration will then close at noon the day of the meeting. During this portion of public comments, the board will allow citizens who have appropriately signed up in advance to speak on agenda items. The board will allow 3 minutes for each speaker. As a reminder, trustees may ask for or provide clarification under Board Policy BED. But please understand that in accordance with Texas law, the board is not able to respond directly to comments or questions posed by the speakers during public comments. Therefore, GISD staff members will review all submissions and, if necessary, reach out to seek resolution or additional information prior to our meeting. Individuals addressing the board with concerns are encouraged to review and seek resolution through the district policies for handling complaints. We ask those in attendance to be respectful to listeners during public comment so that everyone in the audience can clearly hear each speaker. Speakers, when you get to the podium, please state your name and address for the record. Those who intend to present trustees with any items or supplemental materials will need to submit those to security personnel. For safety reasons, we ask you not to approach the dais. And at this time, we will have our first speaker, and I did not get the list of who they were.
Our speaker tonight is Paula McDonald.
You have the list?
Hello, board, and everyone up here and out here. Merry Christmas. And I am here just to say thank you to Dr. Harrington. I'm going to cry, and I said I wasn't going to, but I am. And you guys, you know, 18 years up here on this board is huge. But not only that, Dr. Harrington gave her entire adult life to public education, and that is huge. And so I found a beautiful poem. I didn't write it, but I think it's so appropriate for her. Sometimes, as we travel through this world, our lives are touched by someone who makes a profound impact upon us. Someone whose kindness and sense of humanity serves to make our days just that much brighter. Someone who reminds us of Jesus in his goodness and his capacity to reach us and others. A gentle woman who takes the time to extend her hand and open her heart to all those in need. Someone who, like the shepherd, tends to her flock, young and old, with love and devotion. And the flock, in turn, willingly follows the Good Shepherd's lead, following in their hearts that she was sent to guide them in her love and her wisdom to the greenest of all pastures. Such a woman you are, and we are grateful and blessed by your presence in our lives. Thank you, Dr. Harrington.
Thank you. And next we have Brett Deason.
Good evening, board. I'm Brett Deason. I live at 3217 Crossbridge Circle. And I also want to speak and thank Dr. Harrington. I know about 3 years ago I started attending school board meetings on a regular basis, and I'm an analytical person, but one of the things I first noticed was when a school principal or somebody came out here and presented something, Dr. Harrington knew her stuff. And it was out of respect for the educators on her that she came prepared every single time. And I knew right away she was somebody I wanted to get to know. And I've been, one of the fortunate things I've had, Dr. Harrington, is to get to know you. Because that's one of the biggest rewards I've had coming to these meetings and getting involved as well too. So it's been a blessing to get to know you. I hope to continue that relationship beyond this as well too. And for the record, we did have an election last month, and I don't think we could have found a better lady than Nancy Alana to fill that vacated seat as well too out there. So I want to congratulate Nancy. I want to congratulate Mike on his re-election. And I will tell you right now, we sent a message last month to those who want to continue to attack public education. We're not going to wait, and we're going to defend it right here as well too. And we're going to stand up for people like Dr. Harrington, who led with a lot of grace and leadership in the face of a lot of adversity. Thank you, Dr. Harrington.
Next, we have Lacey Cherie Westland.
Well, you just said my name. Do you still need my address? You said to say my name and address. Do I do both? Okay, 8400 Fall Creek Highway. I just wanted to congratulate Nancy and Mike and everyone else who ran a campaign and their desire to serve our students, even those who did not win. I want to thank the board here tonight who not only serve selflessly once a month as the public sees, but I know the tireless and countless hours of dedication and support beyond the diocese by being at events, preparing for the board meeting, all of those things. I truly appreciate you all, and Dr. Glenn, and even administrators here. It shows a true leadership. I've attended 50 Fellas for several years now, seeing the GEF checks that are posted on Facebook and the wonderful ideas that our teachers have to advance education outside of a textbook affirms my belief that we have the best teachers, staff, and leadership in the world. Humbled to be in the presence of such amazing students that we recognize today, I graduated from a city in Texas that had over 26 high schools. And my decision to come here, I am proud to come here. They do not have all the things that this school has, and I'm so proud. And Dr. Harrington, holy cow, you are phenomenal. And I truly appreciate all of the work that every one of you guys do, including Dr. Harrington and our security staff, everyone in here for just supporting our students. And I would like everyone to know that our students see it, our parents see it, because I'm just a parent, and we truly appreciate all the work that you guys do. So don't let the outside noise know that they're getting to you, because you guys are spectacular.
Thank you so much. And our last speaker tonight is Beverly Cheney.
Dr. Glenn, will you clarify that with her, please?
I already did. I just did not do it with the mic on.
Thank you for allowing me to speak. I will be one of the three speakers who won't talk about Dr. Harrington tonight. She already knows how I feel about her. I just want to thank all you guys. Thank you, Emmett. It was so nice to have the woman from Snow Garrett Williams here to talk about and be so upfront and transparent about all the good things that happen in our business office and with our financial status. And I'm glad it's on video. People can watch it. Even the board members, maybe whatever kept them away from here, they will be able to get to their computers and watch and see what a great job you all do. And I also want to make note that just like y'all told me, we were able to give our teachers a great raise, and our tax rates for a lot of us went down, our tax bills went down. So thank you for giving us that opportunity to pay our teachers what they deserve and still not have it hurt us too much. And I hope and look forward to y'all coming back again very soon and give us an opportunity to do what's right for kids. Thank y'all.
Thank you, Ms. Cheney. That is the end of our public comments, and we will now move on to consider action on discussed in closed session. Dr. Glenn.
Thank you, Madam President. We have a couple of items before you tonight. The first is staff recommendations, and I do want to point out specifically Bobby Allison, who is on our personnel report tonight, that we will be making the recommendation for him to take the position of Coach Cheesy, most recently Cindy Galindo, who's been our interim boys coordinator and head football coach. Coach Allison, do you mind standing up? Coach Allen is the current assistant head football coach at Justin Northwest. He comes highly recommended. I know that Justin hates to lose him. We are certainly blessed to have he and his family. And do you mind, we'll have your wife and daughters with you tonight. Do you want to go ahead and ask them to stand? Why don't you introduce, might as well. You know, we spent a lot of time talking to a lot of candidates, and at the end of the day, and we had a very large committee made up of community members, parents, administrators, and at the end of the day, Coach Allison just kept rising to the top, and we're looking forward to the great things that he's going to bring to Granbury Pirate football, but to boys athletics in general. He's a man of integrity, he's a hard worker, and he and his family are ready to move to Granbury and get to work. So Coach Allison will be on the personnel report, and trustees, you have before you the personnel report. We would ask that you take that item first and approve as recommended.
Do I hear a motion?
Madam President, I move that we accept the personnel report as presented in closed session.
And I'll second.
Thank you, Ms. Gore, for the motion, and Mr. Moore for the second. Is there any discussion? Those in favor, raise your hand. All opposed? Passes 5-0 with 2 absent. And moving on.
Yeah, thank you, Madam President. Also, as part of staff recommendations, we have before you the second request for catastrophic leave. We'll ask that you approve that as recommended by Mr. Jones and his committee.
Madam President, I move that we approve the catastrophic leave as presented to us in our executive meeting.
Thanks, Ms. Alana.
A second.
And we have a second by Mr. Wimberly. All those in favor, raise your hand. Passes 5-0 with 2 absent.
Thank you, Madam President. This final item does not require board action, but it is required by law that I report. We did have an intruder audit last month. That audit was conducted at Emma Robertson Early Learning Academy, and I want to commend Chief Wade Clark and his team, as well as Kelly Lambert, principal at Emma Robertson, and her staff for passing the audit with flying colors. I believe that makes us 5 for 5 this year, and 14-0 since they started doing intruder audits. So congratulations to our security team, and certainly keep up the good work. Madam President, that's all the items that we have from closed session.
Thank you, Dr. Glenn. We will now move on to consider consent agenda items. Are there any items that the board would like to have pulled for individual consideration?
Madam President, I'd like to pull the item 13G, budget amendments.
Are there any other items that need to have individual consideration? Okay, go ahead, Ms. Gore.
Okay, this is a long one, so get comfortable. I just want to recognize all the donations that Granbury ISD has had from our community. It's a long list, and it just goes to show the support that our community has for our district, and we could not do what we do without y'all's support, so thank you. We've had a donation from Granbury Optimist Club to the Junior Optimist Student Activity Fund to stock the GHS athletic freezer in the amount of $720. We've had a donation from Dallas Holocaust Museum to the STARS Campus Activity Fund for admission attending the museum in the amount of $242. We've had a donation from Jim and Nancy Douglas to the GHS CTE Photography Campus Activity Fund to purchase equipment in the amount of $500. We've had a donation from FNB of Granbury to the GHS Avid Student Activity Account to supplement travel in the amount of $300. We've had a donation from Renee Serrano to the GHS Avid Student Activity Account to supplement travel in the amount of $120. We've had a donation from Susan Johnson to the GHS MCJROTC Student Activity Account to support the cadets in the amount of $566. A donation from the Granbury Optimist Club to the GHS Band Student Activity Account to supplement student meals in the amount of $352.11. A donation from Lacrosse Footwear, Danner Boots, to the GHS Barbecue Team Campus Activity Fund as a sponsor in the amount of $2,500. A donation from All American Insurance Associates, Scott Mitchell, to the GHS Barbecue Team Campus Activity Account in the amount of $250. A donation from an anonymous donor to the GHS Barbecue Team Campus Activity Account to supplement supplies in the amount of $250. A donation from Ziplon Incorporated to the GHS Robotics Team Student Activity Account to supplement supplies in the amount of $500. A donation from F&B of Granbury, Matt Buffkin, to the GHS Robotics Team Student Activity Account to supplement activities in the amount of $1,000. A donation from Willow Lane to the GHS Robotics Team Student Activity Account to supplement activities in the amount of $50. And a donation from Schottenkirk Auto Group to the GHS Robotics Team Student Activity Account for sponsorship in the amount of $1,500, for a total donation amount from the community of $8,850.11. So please, if you see them out and about in the community, give them a thanks. Thank them for their support and all they do for our students in Granbury.
Thank you, Ms. Gore. Do I have a motion regarding the consent agenda items?
Madam President, I move that we approve the consent agenda items as presented.
Thank you, Ms. Alana.
And I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. All those in favor, raise your hand. All those opposed, 5-0 with 2 absent. Moving on to discussion and action. First review of the new GHS GPA system for incoming freshmen. Mr. Robinson.
Good evening, Madam President and Board, Dr. Glenn. Tonight I'm bringing a very important change to consider for our GPA policy. So anybody who's been through our current system or has had kids in there knows that it's been there's been some confusion and kind of how the processes work. So a couple of months ago, I was tasked with coming up with an evaluation of our current GPA process, our system, and put a committee together to create recommendations. It was too complex, it was too confusing, and some kids were taking other classes instead of going to a higher level class. They might be dropping some other classes, trying to make it all fit so it doesn't hurt their GPA. So we began examining a large group of large districts that have been successful. So we looked at about 10 different procedural GPA policies, and we looked at something that could be better fit for our campus and our community. So we also looked at the weighting, we looked at how it fits with the course catalog, we looked at the pros and cons of every single one. And so in your packet, you'll see what our committee finalized as a recommendation. And this policy, it fits kind of where we're at with the campus or the state accountability system, our goals for our campus and our district, and really just kind of hearing from some of the concerns and some of the challenges of what we had in place. So we're looking to have other comparable districts, and so if you look, you'll see that not only did we looked at how some of the verbiage was, we looked at the weighting, we ran different models, we examined tables, and we really dived in deep with a mix of teachers who had been through different types of the policies we've had in the past and current, and we also had a mix of parents, and that way when we start this process, we could hear from their take and then where we can go. And so once adopted, we'll have a rollout plan, and we'll have informational nights to include presentations at GHS, GMS, and AMS before February 5th. And the course catalog recommendations that you'll have in front of you tonight, they also match all the requirements, and this rated system matches this whole, all of the course catalog. And it meets all the TEA requirements. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them right now.
First off, you would not start this for anyone who's currently in high school, correct?
That's correct. So looking at the 8th graders right now, their freshman year, this is when this would start.
Okay. And also, I know that in the current plan we have, transfer students in that transfer during their high school years, it's really difficult. How does this plan handle that type of situation?
So if they come to us with courses that we don't offer, they still get a tier 1 weighted, they still get the tier 1 weight. But it also, we look at we looked at so many different comparisons, and that's why we've also adjusted our course catalog. So we should have very few of those situations to match what across the state we look at.
And first of all, let me just speak into that for a second. I want to commend Jamie Robinson, Tammy Clark, and the committee of high school teachers that worked on this. Probably the greatest aspect of this plan is not just its simplicity, but that it is also a uniform plan. It's something that's very similar to what schools across the state of Texas do, which will enable kids as they transfer into our district or as they transfer out of our district to do so more fluidly.
And honestly, that was one of the biggest things we looked at was if someone were to move in, how would this fit? And so, like I said, we looked at so many different districts, and I feel like we have a very sound and easy to follow GPA policy in place there to propose to you.
And I think the big key to this is it's a first review tonight, so no action is necessary on the part of the board. But the challenge I would give to you, Mr. Robinson, and I know we've talked about this, is to make sure it's communicated well to the students at GMS and AMS. Those are the kids and the families that will be most affected by this change in the immediate future. And then from there, once you have the opportunity to get input and buy-in at those campuses, if you could bring it back to our January 29th meeting, we could look at it for formal approval, and then you'll be well on your way to signing kids up for courses on February 5th.
Right, absolutely. Thank you. And in addition, I can also discuss, we went over our GPA policy recommendation that we'll roll out and get input, but we also have our course catalog. And so every couple of years or in every year, we look at what are the adjustments we need to make to the course catalog. So Granbury High School, what we did was we edited what was in place. We looked at TEA requirements. We looked at what is it that we need to do because of our accountability system. Our campus accounts for 37% of our district accountability, which is huge. Mm-hmm. So we have to look at how does everything fit into making this work. And so some of the courses that we'll be adding, we have a new one. It's called Team Sports Officiating. So that's something new that's coming out. CTE Public Services has Correctional Services. And CTE Business and Industry, we have Fundamentals of Computer Science, AP Computer Science Principles, Dual Enrollment Computer Science 2, and Independent Study in Technology Applications. These would all be additions that enhance what we already have and give more students more opportunities in the pathway.
And I saw that you're also adding personal financial literacy and economics. And
yes.
All I can say is, as a banker, thank you, and as a mom, thank you.
Well, and it's interesting because this next one I'm about to discuss, that one is actually under social studies. So it's all the financial components and how it influences what you do with economics and how it impacts the bigger scheme of the whole economics world, not isolated. So I think that's really exciting to see that too.
Mr. Robinson, we've already taken action on the course catalog and the consent agenda. There's no action needed on the GPA plan at this time, but we appreciate your report. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, everybody, and I appreciate everybody that was involved. Thank you.
All right, this time we'll move on to consider resolution to employ or accept as volunteers chaplains. Dr. Glenn.
And I'm going to ask Dr. John Knox, who is our head chaplain for the county, to come up to the podium. And God bless you for sitting there for the last hour and a half.
It was good stuff, though.
I appreciate it very much, and we appreciate the work. For those of you who don't know, Steve Quinn and Dr. John Knox are chaplains for the Granbury Police Department. Terry and Darla Leuven are chaplains for the Sheriff's Department. Correct. And what we've decided to do as a district, and as most of you know, or if you don't know, in this last legislative session, it's required by all school districts to take action on a chaplain policy. It was presented as part of this last legislative session that chaplains could actually replace school counselors and be employees of the district. As a district, it is our recommendation in consultation with both Dr. Knox and Mr. Quinn, or Dr. Quinn?
That's correct. Yes.
That's right, Dr. Quinn,
Dr.
medicine man. And the Lubmans, that we continue to use chaplains on a volunteer basis. They provide a great supplement. They are a great resource to our district for years, well before the legislature decided to get involved in this. We have utilized chaplains during times of crisis in this community. It has always been a strong partnership with our schools. It is our recommendation that we continue to utilize chaplains in a voluntary role in our district and as a resource to our counselors. And then I asked Dr. Knox to be here in case anyone from the board had questions.
I don't have any questions, but I do want to thank you for all that you and the other pastors do in your capacity as volunteers for the district and the resource that you are for our students. So thank you.
I know that Mike and I had a lot of questions about this while we were working on our campaigns. So there is a lot of talk in the community about this particular bill. And I think what we heard from people at that time was that they are so thankful for the counselors that we have on our staffs. And they understand all the requirements set out by TEA about what our counselors should be required to do. And the majority of the people that we talked with really would like to have our counselors continue in the role that they are in at this time. I think everyone understands that from time to time, if there is a crisis of some sort, that our pastors might be available, our chaplains might be available to counsel with students, particularly those that may go to their churches or that they are familiar with. And I think it's an important role, particularly for teachers and students when there is a crisis, that we have those people on board. But we're fortunate that we've got some very qualified folks on each one of our campuses that work hard and have done the training and who are doing an outstanding job. I don't see at this time, it's my recommendation that we just continue with our counselors and just understand that if chaplains are needed at another time in the future during a crisis, that they would be willing to come onto our campus as invited.
I second.
Yes.
Well said.
And the resolution that we have that we can vote on states, I won't go through the whereas part unless you want me to put it all in, affirms the practice of a district campus permitting a chaplain to provide support, services, and programs for students in accordance with the district's existing GKG local policy, which would be using you as we have been using you. And we have so appreciated you during the times where we have called, and you all have always been available to us, and I thank you for that.
And for those of you who don't know, Dr. Knox is the pastor at Granbury Church of Christ. They are a partner to our district in many ways, but they are also our neighbor, building a beautiful facility. Football parking.
Which we appreciate.
We appreciate. You're building a beautiful new facility with a new parking lot for us.
We hope to be in it in the next decade. You know, we're getting down to the wire.
See, you got to start charging for those parking spaces. Exactly. Learn how to profit off of it. No, you guys. Y'all are a great partner to us, but more importantly, I'll just say this personally. In my time here, Dr. Knox, he has stepped foot on our campuses at some of the most difficult times for our students and our employees and our families. Mm-hmm. And I've rarely come across finer men in my life than Dr. Knox. He is empathetic, and he is compassionate, and he is kind, and he always seems to have the right words to say in really, really difficult times. So we're grateful to you, and we're also grateful to Steve and Terry and Darla, but you especially, because I've known you the longest. Thank you for what you do. Thank you for your leadership, and we appreciate the partnership.
And I think I can speak for all of us that the partnership with Granbury ISD is really phenomenal. This is my 20th school year. To be able to work with the various campuses. In my 37-year career, I've never, ever had a more positive experience with the school district in terms of the openness to partnering with us and working with us in our respective areas, supporting school counselors. A lot of our role sometimes is supporting the faculty in as much as the students.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
So at this time, we have a motion to accept as volunteers chaplains to provide support services and programs for students as assigned by the board. And we have a second. Is there any more discussion?
We did have a motion.
It was.
Well, yeah, I made the recommendation, I can do a formal.
Go ahead and make it formal,
Okay.
please.
I move, Madam President, I move that we maintain our counselors on our campuses as we have them now and use chaplains in our community on emergency basis.
And I'll second.
Okay, so we have a motion by Ms. Alana. We have a second by Mr. Moore. Is there any other discussion? All right, those in favor, raise your hand. Opposed? That passes 5-0 with 2 absent. All right, let me get back over to my other sheet here. Okay, where are we? Yes. Mr. Wilson, consider the 2023-2024 District Technology Plan.
Thank you, Madam President. It's actually the 24-25 technology plan. We're in 23-24 right now, so it wouldn't be much of a plan if it was already in the middle of it. Rather than bore you with the entire 23 pages, I'm kind of just going to go over an overview of what it is we do and just take questions if you need be. So how does technology help? Most teachers believe that it maximizes potential for children. It fosters creativity, enhances collaboration, and allows them to communicate effectively and think critically. And how do we get the information that's in our technology plan? Most of this comes from surveys. It comes from Bright Bites data. It comes from surveys that we send out to students, to teachers, to campus principals, to parents. We also get usage data from all the applications that we use. We also have a 3,000-foot view of our PIM snapshot, if you're seeing it right now. It's roughly 8,000 students, just a little bit less. We have 10,000 Chromebooks that children can use. 3,400 of those cannot be used for testing. They're only internet-only devices. The hope is to get those off-hand so they can no longer be used and confused. And with the approval earlier and the consent agenda item, you're going to allow us to purchase 1,200 more devices that should take us close to a one-to-one facility. We also want to increase or have our students be aware of our digital citizenship. We want them to be safe, be responsible, be respectful, legal, and ethical. And on the cybersecurity front, we partner with KnowBe4 for our annual cybersecurity training. We send out monthly phishing attacks and simulated phishing attacks to hopefully try to catch some people and to improve them. And also in the month of December alone, and bear with me for this, on a daily average, we knock down around 41,000 attempts for people to get into our network. We also knock down about 35 to 40 attempts for people to gain access to our devices, just to give you an idea of what we do. So, the technology plan is in front of you. Hopefully you've read over it, and if you have any questions, I can answer anything for you.
I don't have any questions, but I just want to speak into the cybersecurity piece of what you do. And your job encompasses a broad area. But the cybersecurity piece is something that has really been growing in school districts, let's say for the last 5 to 10 years, as more and more districts fall prey to these attacks. And so I thank you for staying on top of that. I thank you for making sure that our staff is trained up and you're constantly monitoring those threats. You and your team do an outstanding job. And you know, that was not something that we really discussed 20 years ago. It was always about pushing one-to-one and pushing out technology. But today, that push out of technology and students on our networks and opening up our networks for testing can lend itself to pretty damaging circumstances if we're not prepared. And I always feel like with you at the helm, we are prepared and you're watching out for those things. So thank you for your leadership in those areas.
Thank you.
And especially with TEA wanting STARS tests to all be done on computer, having the opportunity for those kids to have the time on the computers, get used to it before those tests are done. I really appreciate it. And you put together a good plan. It made sense. I didn't really have any questions.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Madam President, I move that we approve the technology plan as submitted.
I'll second.
We have a motion to approve by Mr. Wimberly and a second by Ms. Gore. Any discussion? Those in favor, raise your hand. Any opposed? 5-0 with 2 absent. Okay. Mr. Emmett Whitefield, consider approval of the annual financial audit report that we heard earlier today by Snow and Garrett.
Thank you, Madam President. Yes, you do have in front of you the bound copy of the audit as well as the management letter. And Lindsay did present to you earlier. It is administration's recommendation that you accept the annual financial report for year ending August 31st, 2023 as presented.
Do I hear a motion?
Madam President, I move that we accept the audit report as presented.
Thank you, Ms. Gore.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Wimberly. Any discussion? Those in favor, raise your hand. Those opposed, 5-0, 2 absent. All right, we are now moving on to reports. First one is the revised GISD board meeting schedule. Dr. Glenn.
Thank you, Madam President. And you have at your dais a GISD proposed meeting schedule. And essentially what we've done here is we've incorporated the board's new practice of hosting a special meeting quarterly to hear non-agenda items, public comment on non-agenda items. You'll notice that those meetings are called for February 26th, for May 28th, for August 26th, and then we're looking at the end of November, but it fell on Thanksgiving break, so you see the addendum that we put at the dais to move that to December 2nd. And so with your approval, we'd like to approve this board meeting schedule, and then we will upload it into the board book for you.
One thing I'd like to add to this for those who are listening, what we're doing public comments for non-agenda items is another item that we ended up revising in our last meeting. So I want to read something. Since the board cannot deliberate on any subject that is not included on the agenda, the board has scheduled the quarterly special meetings to hear non-agenda items. The venue will allow the board to have open discourse with the public and work to resolve issues through the many programs and experts that we have within the district. An example of a non-agenda item is the gentleman who spoke a month ago about a broken AC on his daughter's bus. Since it was not on the agenda, we couldn't discuss this with him. All we could do was listen silently. In this new venue, we could discuss that buses have been ordered, but the delivery is slow, that we are working to keep our buses running, but it's difficult given the miles they run per day. Also, we could have directed him to whom to contact directly to help in his particular situation. The first quarterly special meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, February 26th at 5 p.m., and it will be held here in the GISD Administration Building. Now let's go on to the next report. which is presented by Mr. Carruthers, and it happens to be the Transportation Annual Report.
That was a pretty awesome segue you gave into that. I really like that. I've told y'all before that in transportation, we bleed school bus yellow, and so I'm really going to try to move through this, but there's a lot of stuff here that I want to talk about real quick. Currently, we're running 54 double routes. And what double routes mean to us is every driver comes in, they start coming in about 5 o'clock in the morning, start inspecting their equipment, getting their equipment ready, move out to pick up the elementary kiddos, the pre-K through 5th graders. We bring those guys back to school. We go back out again that same morning, pick up the middle school, high school kids, bring those back in. That's 2 trips. So we've got 54 routes, which is what we call that, 6 midday routes and 6 activity routes. A little bit of math real quick shows that each day we're running 225 trips, not counting any field trips or anything like that. We're doing that with 54 route drivers, 15 sped attendants, a plethora of special ed staff, 4 shop guys that are working their little fingers to the bone, not near enough sub drivers just because it seems like we're always looking for sub drivers, field trip and routing clerks. So altogether, we get approximately 3,200 students a day to and from school. Mileage-wise, we run about 5,379 miles per day. Now, my little brain has to figure out how that works, and I've talked to you about this before. This is more than if we started in San Diego, California, drove to Charleston, South Carolina, and back in one day. So we're putting a lot of miles on them that way with the daily trips, and then we're going to add that to it. This last year, we reported 234,707 miles for field trips. Now, again, my little mind, how far is that? That's almost to the moon. To the moon's 238,900 miles. We're just short of going to the moon on that. We're using a lot. We're going a lot. Each school day we use about 1,000 gallons of diesel per day. That's each day school is in session. Currently, diesel is at $2.78 per gallon. Up to right now, this year we've used 74,262 gallons of diesel to the tune of $206,000. 12,657 gallons of unleaded to the tune of $41,000. So that brings us to our challenges. Costs. Fuel costs have more than doubled since 2021. In 2021, we paid $310,590 for fuel. In 21-22, we paid $570,278 for fuel. And for 22-23, we paid $644,240 for fuel. Parts and services always increased because we're having to do more of it because those old girls are getting loaded. They are getting old. We've got 4 shop personnel that are working 50-plus hours a week to keep those things going. In 2008, the school board, or the bond, bought us 16 buses. Since that money has been expended, the district has gone ahead and bought 19 more buses out of the fund balance. To speak to the most recent ones, in 2021, 2 special needs buses were purchased at the tune of $104,000 each. In 2022, 2 large buses were purchased at the tune of $120,000 each, and I viewed that as a deal at that, because the other two folks that were bidding on that were about $10,000, $15,000 more. So I think we got a deal on that. This year, we're looking at putting a bid out for additional 3 buses, and I'm expecting probably the buses to go for about $140,000 or so. So we're spending a lot of money keeping those guys going, but they're doing awesome doing it. The last thing I'll get rid of, and I'll move on to the next folks, is I want to brag about my staff. We've got a super amazing batch of folks. We're here at 5 a.m. where the last bus rolls in with our activity shuttle at 8:30 at night, and we've got folks all in the middle that we're moving back and forth. They're moving those guys back and forth because they have a true heart for kids and they want the best for kids. We have a safety record that is quite phenomenal. We've had no serious accidents, anything like that. We were run into once this last year. However, it was not our fault. We had lights going and everything. So our folks are doing the best they can with what they can. At that point, I'm going to turn it over to y'all. Do y'all have any questions?
Have I seen at least one new bus on the road recently?
We've got 2 new buses on the road.
Nice.
We got those 2 new buses that were bid in 2022 in November. If you remember when y'all voted on that, we finally got those in December of this month. We finally got those 2 new buses. We're mighty proud of them, and those kids are mighty proud of them too. And they're taking care of them because they're proud of what they've got and something nice that they've got.
And I appreciate Brian's passion for this. Something we talked about a lot during the bond election was the need for not only a transportation hub, but a lot of new buses. He and his maintenance team do a good job of keeping our buses up. But when it's 110 degrees outside, it is tough keeping air conditioners on a 10, 15, 20-year-old bus up and running. And that's a challenge they're faced with year in and year out. And it really remains a top concern. As the price of buses goes up, we're going to continue to budget and use district resources to buy buses, but buying two or 3 a year and maintaining a fleet of, what do we have, about 60 routes?
61, yes, sir.
61 routes. It's difficult. We need more, and when we're really behind, Emmett, how many buses have we bought in the last 5 years? Yeah, so we bought 19 buses, and Brian and his team, they're just hard on them. They run long miles. We're 225 geographic miles as a district, and so we're hard on buses here. But you and your team do a good job, and we appreciate it, and hopefully we'll be out there fighting the good fight to get your resources again this next May.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
And now we'll have Mr. Scott Campbell come and give us a report on maintenance.
Hello. Can you hear me? I forgot my glasses. I've got the case, but.
You borrow mine, Scott?
I'm going to wing it.
I can sympathize.
Everybody has a pair of cheaters around here.
All right. Currently, we are running 25 employees, 1 manager, 1 HVAC lead, electric lead, 2 HVAC techs, 1 HVAC helper, 1 electrician. We have a GM with a GM lead with 1 plumber, 1 plumber's helper, 2 carpenters, and 4 GM workers. We're running 1 groundskeeper with 4 groundskeeping in his crew. We have an athletic grounds with 2 groundskeepers and 1 irrigation specialist. We are trying to maintain 623 acres, and that includes turf, which the athletic grounds tries to take care of 1 outdoor turf, 1 inside turf field, 2 full-size practice fields, at the high school, 1.5 football practice fields, 2 full-size soccer fields, 8 tennis courts, 1 baseball field, 1 softball field, and 1 track. AMS and GMS currently are running 1 football field, 1 baseball field, 1 softball field, and 4 tennis courts with 1 track. We're trying to keep these watered with 8 water wells with pressure pumps, 5 storage tanks. We try to do safety on all playgrounds and athletic areas. Buildings are usually done with the other crews, and they consist of 1,495,221 square feet of buildings. That includes 1 admin building, a transportation maintenance center, an ag science complex, a STARS BTC campus, 4 training center, a high school, 2 middle schools, 5 elementaries, 1 early learning academy, 1 daycare, and approximately 770 HVAC units. We accomplished in the last year changing out approximately 81 new units. Most of them are 25 plus years old, except for those few. We put new turf on the Perkins football field, and we put LED lighting on the Perkins football field. Day-to-day operations, we work off what we call work orders. Last year, we got 8,199 work orders. We completed 8,088 with an average completion time of 14 days, 4 hours, and 55 minutes. That's a 98.8% completion rate. And that's approximately 34 work orders per day. And that's what I have.
That's impressive, 34 work orders a day with 25 employees.
Well, you know, grounds crews don't do work orders, so they don't count. Any questions from anybody?
I appreciate what you're able to do. I know that you have, how many AC units do we have that are now over 25 years old?
Roughly out of 770, I want to say 450, give or take.
And you're doing a great job keeping them up, and I do really
I
appreciate
have a
that.
great staff that does that.
Yeah, we were very fortunate. The number was actually higher. I don't know, I see Stacy Brown. She's probably watching online tonight, but she was able to help with Haley Vernon, use our SR2 money to purchase, we get about 83 HVAC units knocked out with SR money.
81.
It was 81, wasn't it, Scott?
81.
So without that SR money, we would have been even further in the hole with HVAC. And how hard, just speak to how hard it is to find like certified electricians, certified plumbers, certified
That's almost
HVAC.
impossible to find anymore.
Yeah.
You know, we've gone up to like 6 months trying to find somebody in any department, really. So,
Well, Scott does a great job. Scott, how many years you been with the district?
36.
36 years with the district. Your dad worked for the GISD before that. I told Scott, I was like, hey, Scott Emmett can just do this report for you. He said no. He was like, I want to be there. I want to give that report. I'm excited.
I forgot that conversation.
Hey, Scott, I'll tell you, he was like, I don't need to do that. Y'all can do it. But I wanted him to come give the report, not only because he's such a great public speaker, but I'll tell you, he works hard. His guys work hard, and I wanted you to know how much we appreciate you and your staff, and I wanted you to feel the love of our board because we know you guys work hard. And so I know it was a long night for you waiting, but Scott, we appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, Emmett, I'm going to let you take us home with the financial statement and then just go right on into the cash flow and investment report.
Thank you, Madam President. Board, in front of you have the financial statements for the month ending November 30th, 2023. This statement does include the transactions that occurred between September 1st, 2023 and November 30th, 2023. The revenue collected to date equals 9.4% of the budget amount compared to 7.48% in 22 and 23. Expenditures to date represent 26.78% of the budget as compared to 31.56% in 22-23. What you'll notice on your financials is that Under our local property taxes, you can see we're about 0.7%. The reason for that lag is because the statements or the bills were not sent out from HCAD until after the election. So that's the only real issue in that section right there. And if you do not have any questions about the financials, I'll move on to the cash flow.
Keep on going.
Thank you. You can see on your cash flow and investment report that in November of '23, we made about $110,825.50 in interest for a total this fiscal year of $377,429.35. You can see that we do keep most of our money in pool investments under Lone Star because they do have the best interest rate at this point. And I can answer any questions about that if you have any.
Much more interest this year than last.
Yes, ma'am.
Is there anything else from the board? Okay, the time is 7:58 and we are closed. Thank you.
Thank you, board.